hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
Oh, hello there. I'm glad you could join us. 'Twas the night before neXmas, and all through the world, Wintervale was stirring, recently unfurled. Gamer stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that epic loot boxes soon would be there. Gingerbread Nazebo on his gingerbread sleds, and visions of Sugar Plum Sylvanas dance in our heads. And not only that, but what arrives in our lap? The 2018 gameplay update. Many surprises to unwrap. And even though ranked play caused such a clatter, we all quickly realized it really shan't matter. Because Blizzard is here, and just like a flash, they'll fix all that's broken. There's no reason to gnash. And we've got game changes galore, you must certainly know. The game is much different than nary a short time ago. Supports were nerfed to everyone's great fear. What will happen to my Rhaegar that I hold so dear? When it comes time to draft, I won't know whom to pick. No more double support meta. This fixed that right quick. Then stealthies were where the next changes came. They're easier to spot, or so Blizzard does claim. There's Nova, there's Valera. I see what they're fixin'. For Zeratul, for Samuro. Harder to get their licks in. And how about the new Mercs? They're tougher to fall, and if you leave them alone, they'll get more than the wall. That's certainly not it. Blizzard's given us quite a bit more. It turns out laning is no longer a bore. Globes can now be contested, making laning tough work. Steal the enemy's globe, and they'll think you're a jerk. You can't drain tower ammo and make it quicker to fall. You now have to apply pressure to take down that wall. This game we all love is now better than ever. I bet those people at Blizzard think they're awfully clever. To those that gave me something upon which to rhyme, I'd like to thank you for your hard work and your time. You've created a community that we all hold so dear. Everyone's looking forward to the upcoming year. And thankfully we end with no Hanamura in sight. With that, happy neXmas to all, and to all, a good night. So hello and welcome to the 59th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm, part of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. So I'm your host, Linus Daz Kilius, and festively we've got LiQuiuD and Mystic joining us to celebrate neXmas. Welcome and Merry neXmas, gentlemen.
Merry neXmas.
Merry neXmas, everybody.
So for any of those who know, LiQuiuD and Mystic had no idea I was going to pop that intro in there, so it was a bit of a surprise to all. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We've got a great show. We've got a balance patch, which dropped a couple hours ago, taking us all off guard. We scrambled to get the notes in. We scrambled to try playing Garrosh because Garrosh's throw or actually his Q has been changed quite drastically too. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the other notes that changed in the balance patch. We're also going to be taking a look at the three of our favorite heroes, talking a little bit of strategy about them. We'll leave that as a bit of a surprise as to who those are. We're also going to say what we want from Blizzard for Christmas, or neXmas, I guess, if we're going to be agnostic. And as per usual, we're always going to have LiQuiuD's eSports Corner. We've missed LiQuiuD for the past couple of weeks, so it's glad to have him back to be doing that again. And we're going to cover the news as per usual. But before we start the show, we always like to thank those patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg for supporting the show. The show is always going to be free. No one's ever going to have to pay a penny for it. But if you're looking for a way to support the show, you can do so over there. Every little bit helps, and it's very much appreciated, guys. The troll of the week this week is Stixa. Stixa has been a friend of the show for the better part of a year now, and for those of you who don't know, Stixa is actually a caster, a chair league caster, and he's been doing some of what's it called, the Heroes of the Dorm stuff, like the preamble there. LiQuiuD, you'd probably know that more than I would, like the college bits.
Oh yeah, it's just the lead up. It's oh god, what did they name that thing? So the organization that does Heroes of the Dorm is doing a get your teams in tournament shape. It's like Chair League meets Heroes of the Dorm. Tespit Training Grounds. Thank you, Hero Physio, for knowing the things that I forget. Styx has been casting Tespit Training Grounds.
And he's an amazing caster. I actually met him because he cast, I think, our first or maybe second Chair League game of last Chair League season. And I was really impressed. I think it was one of his first casts ever, and he was good. So he's one of those up-and-coming casters. I keep an eye out for him, try and catch his stream, catch his stuff. He was in the chat room last week as well. So this week, he is officially our Troll of the Week. So with that being said, let's move on to the news, shall we?
Someday, this will make a great story.
For the news, gifting loot boxes is a thing. If you didn't know, you can actually go into Battle.net. You can purchase loot boxes not only for yourself now, but for other people as well. You can give them to your friends. Apparently, this is only going to be valid for the near future. I think till January 8th is what they said. So, you know, spread that Christmas cheer, spread some loot boxes. I've bought a few and given them out to friends. And, you know, I think it's a great gesture and people always enjoy it. So if you need to, head over to Battle.net and just go into the shop. You've got to do it through the launcher or through the website. It's a little clunky to get there, but if you go and try and purchase loot chests, you can actually, there's an option to gift. So it took me a little while to figure out how to do it, but once you do, it's actually not too complicated. So the biggest news of the week is by far and away the ranked play seeding debacle. We talked about this a little bit last show, but it was kind of like in the middle of resolving itself. It was just past the part of rumor at that point. Well, last week's been kind of crazy. It turns out that there was an issue with people falling into the wrong seeding to start off Hero League. The most notorious version of it was Ferociously Steph, who's a great streamer. I suggest anyone to check out her stream. She's typically a Grandmaster player, and she ended up getting seeded into, I think, Platinum after going 8-2, 8 wins, 2 losses in her placement matches. So obviously, like, that's an extreme example. There's some people that had the opposite effect. They were low ranked and they went up really high. So there was something wrong. Blizzard identified it. They actually reset everyone's placement games. Roz, who was on our last show, was affected by this as well. So they reset everyone's across the board placement games. They shut down Hero League for an hour, and they said it was fixed. Turns out it wasn't quite fixed because some other people were having this problem too. It was affecting less people, but they did come out today and they said that with this patch that just dropped today, if this did affect you, if you dropped more than like a large league, like from gold to silver or whatnot, or like a far distance from what you were finished off last season at, they will adjust that. And you probably have already noticed that already. I'm sure we're going to get reports of that coming in like as we speak. So for those of you that were hoping for some sort of compensation from Blizzard in terms of loot boxes, sorry. I guess they're not feeling that festive. They just decided to correct their mistake as opposed to give compensations. Sorry to everyone who was clamoring for loot boxes. Okay, and then also, I guess we didn't put this in the notes, but Creators of the Storm, our tournament that we mentioned was delayed, is now set for February 24th.
Woohoo!
Yep, and we're all really excited. We've got a lot of great shows on board. You can check out the website, trolls.gg/COTS. That's Creators of the Storm, COTS. We'll have everything updated there over the course of the next month or two, and that's where you can be able to watch everything live as well as on Twitch and get all the updated standings and statistics and everything.
To be fair, in 2 months is the actual tournament, so it'll definitely be updated by then.
Definitely, but things will be updating along the way is what I guess I meant to say. So, LiQuiud, I guess that means we should be doing some eSport corner here.
We should.
Okay. We should. I just need to figure out, I've got this fancy button thing masher that I should be pressing to cue up the bumper, and I can't figure out which one the button is for eSports. Oh, there it is.
Hey, yo, how you doing? It's time for LiQuiud's eSports Corner. That's right. And you're gonna want to stick around for this.
Take it away, LiQuiud.
All right, so not a whole lot to go over. Obviously, we're in the off season right now, but the schedule has been published, and first games for HGC are going to be on the weekend of January 19th. Bummer for me. I was looking forward to first games being on my birthday, but that's cool. I still have an HGC weekend on that day, so I guess I can deal with that. But we got a little bit of new, I don't want to call it news, but new information dropped on us this week. One of the more surprising things to me was ANZ's actually getting like a league structure. Because of the changes to the minor regions and how teams are getting from minor regions into the international LAN environments. ANZ said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a league structure. We're bringing a couple of pro teams in right now, and then we're going to have like an open division to fill into that league structure. And then at the end of the season in quotes, we're going to go play Latin America in Brazil. And then at the next half of the year, Latin America will come to ANZ and play in Sydney. And that's how we're going to determine which one team is going to the two major lands that year. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see something a little more regular for ANZ. And then we also had a couple of HGC structure things that we kind of found out about earlier this past year, probably about a month ago, but they went more in depth. Minor region teams won't send anybody to the Eastern or Western Clash. That'll only be EUNA in the Western Clash, and then China and Korea in the Eastern Clash. Only in minor regions, you only send the one team, like I said. Top two teams are going to meet and determine who gets that wild card spot. But I think probably the biggest news for me was the transfer window. No longer is the transfer window limited to 2 changes or 3 changes. You can now change the entire team if you want to. Blizzard, in Blizzard's release, they said, but we don't think that'll happen very often. I will be interested to see how true that statement is. But the team will keep the spot. The players will just be gone. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. That was the most interesting thing to me out of that. And then one other interesting bit of news dropped today. Cawthon Luck, the ex-Tempo Storm player, ex-third guy, or I guess technically he could still be third guy, is now the coach for Heroes Hearth eSports, which is awesome. They needed a coach. They got a coach. That's pretty sweet. Justin dropped a little bit of information he wasn't supposed to drop last night on Troll and HGC. Apparently Roll20 might also be in the market for a coach. Maybe not. I don't know. No official comment at this time. But it wouldn't surprise me, right? It would not surprise me to see almost all the NA teams with coaches. I wouldn't be surprised to see Freedom looking for a coach after why my Landon left. Hero Physio's coaching LFM. Naby's coaching Dignitas, even though it's not technically an NA team, whatever. It's an NA coach. Like, there's a lot of coaches going around. Noble S still coaching KSV Black, which is awesome.
Cav Guest, too.
Cavalier Guest, now on GFE's roster as a coach. So, like, it's interesting. Like, at Trollin, we're really big on, like, the support staff is just as important as the players themselves. So, to me, it's cool seeing all these coaches get picked up. And I'm looking, Kala's on Tempo Storm, right? Roll20 and Freedom are really the only two without coaches right now. Old Gods has a coach. Space Station Gaming has Huge, which is cool. Roll20 might be looking, and Team Freedom should be looking now that Landon left, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll go it alone. But like it makes me feel good to see more coaches signing up and working with these teams.
It seems like we've hit a bit of a milestone with Heroes Esports in a lot of ways. The past few months have seen a lot of changes to just how the team structure works in terms of like team ownership and becoming more like ownership friendly. Now that the ownership basically will own the spot, they can completely gut and clean house if they need to now, apparently with this new transfer window restriction being lifted. And a lot of teams, like you said, are looking for coaches and things too. It feels like things are becoming a lot more solid and a lot more concrete than they used to be for Heroes Esports.
I would agree with that. It's interesting. Justin, we brought this up last night with Justin, and somebody in chat, or I did, at some point it was mentioned, like, I'm not here to watch the team specifically. I'm here for the players. And it's easier to say, okay, well, you dumped all 5 players, and those 5 players landed here. I'm going to go watch those 5 players here. So as an organization, you may not actually get what you're looking for. Right? If you cycle the whole team out, and I was a fan of those players, why would I watch your team anymore? Right? Maybe I don't like the players that you brought in. Who knows? I mean, let's be honest. I'm watching every game anyway, so I'm like not the right person to answer that question. but the possibility is there that you're there for the team. It's not like football where, you know, the team is huge and like you care about the team as much. I don't know.
Well, they don't have the geographic boundaries like the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is my hockey team because I grew up in the Toronto area, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I still think there is that loyalty to players, but this does progress that to allow you get to have more loyalty towards the team as well. So that being said, LiQuiud, who's your team going into next season?
Oh God, Roll20 still. Are you kidding me?
I think GFE might be mine, and
oh, it's so close.
I used to be like, I was big talking about loyalties. I followed Trey, and I was a Superstars fan. Superstars never did well, but me and Super Dave, who's one of our regulars in the chat and one of our trolls of the week on a regular basis too. Him and me were the only two people I think I know of that really followed and like were cheering for Superstars because they didn't have any sort of like, they were middle of the pack, not in the Crucible, but not like even being a consideration for BlizzCon or anything. But now that Stray's essentially retired, from what I understand, I've got to move my allegiances on elsewhere. And I really like Cavalier Gas, and even though he's not a player, he's their coach. I want to support that team, I think. So that's where my loyalties are going. How about you?
Go ahead, Mystic. Answer that, and then I'll share my thoughts.
I mean, just watching some of the HGC and stuff, I just really like to support the top NA teams, like, you know, Roll20, Tempo Storm, some of those.
So here's my struggle. I think Roll20 is right now in a position to be number one NA, no matter what. I like Justing, I like Buds, I like Cure, I like Danesky, and I like all five of them. Okay, Justing though, hands down. Justing, I care more about tanks than any other position. It's natural to me. I play tanks. I've always played a tank in any game I've ever played. It's like natural to me to gravitate towards tanks. Fury and Justing are hands down my favorite two tanks in NA, and then Breeze in EU. BKB being a close second, but BKB has his own personal struggles. And naturally, they end up being like they're a very solid team. Next year will be interesting to see how the top four shake out. I think with Tempo still has a strong roster, but Caterpillar moving into the tank spot concerns me a little bit. Team Freedom has a great roster. We'll see how they do. They did well last year. They came in strong. Heroes Hearth with picking up Cawthon is their coach, and like I know how seriously they're taking it. They have a sports psychologist student coming out to talk to them during boot camp week. They're making like I tweeted out today, Heroes Hearth is making all the right moves. They're going to be really interesting to watch in 2018. They're the closest to my number 2 team just because I'm like so excited to see what they can do. Gale, go ahead. I hear you getting ready.
Well, I'm always getting ready. I've always got something to say. That's like my MO. I was just gonna make a comment on, like, you keep saying this team's gonna be great. This team's gonna be great. It'd be interesting to go back a year from like before today and see what you were saying at that time, because it's amazing how things can get turned on their heads so easily, right? And that's one of the great things about this landscape is I feel like any of the teams could potentially be a competitive one, even if you're not expecting it. Like, you know, 2-8 or Team 8, I guess at the time, was the notable example of that. Now they're potentially the favorites.
So I'm gonna say there's two that I worry about that I think may struggle in part 1 and may not, or in phase 1 and may not, and I hope they don't. But there's two teams I'm worried about, and one of them, I'm sorry, Hero Physio, but one of them is LFM. I worry about them coming into HGC a little more than I worry about Heroes Hearth. I'm hopeful. I want to see 8 solid teams. I want it to be like on any given day, right? But I'm hopeful that they do well, but I'm worried about them, and I'm worried about Old Gods. Those are the two teams that I'm worried about. Everybody else, I can see things maybe working their way, maybe not.
I guess time will tell. But anyways, let's move along to the balance patch, shall we? because we've had so much time to sit there and analyze this patch. I'm really glad Secretly Mystic was 10 minutes late to the show today, because I was furiously typing in notes until the show essentially started.
Daz legitimately said, "LiQuiud, I need you to jump on and play Garrosh for a little while, because I know we're not going to have time." I'm like, oh God, okay.
I actually did jump in and played Garrosh, at least in try mode, just to figure out how his changes will work. You know what? Let's just start talking about him first, because he was the big takeaway from this patch. Like, if you read through the patch notes, you're like, okay, changes this here, changes that here, nothing new, just some dials tweaked here, dials tweaked there. Then you get to Garrosh, and it's one of the first times in a long time we've had a hard rework to one of his talents, like one of his abilities, because Garrosh, his notable pull-in on his Q, Groundbreaker, no longer pulls in. And that is a groundbreaking change. You see what I did there? So instead of pulling in, Groundbreaker will actually now it's just stun for 0.75 seconds. And again, still only if you're on the top of the pizza slice. And it slows for 30% for 2 seconds, as well as the stun. So this is interesting because Blizzard wanted to make sure that they still had those kind of like playmaking plays where you're throwing people over your shoulder and stuff. But they recognized, even though his win rate was balanced, it was still like he was being banned, I think, over 90% of the time, which is obviously a place that Blizzard doesn't want a hero to be. Right. So instead of pulling in, they stun them and slow them so that you can still catch up to them. It's almost like borderline, like they can get away, but you can still catch up to the hero that you hit. But instead of having them come to you, you've got to go to them. So that's a very notable difference, because instead of pulling them away from their team and into your backline, you have to run up and then throw them into your backline. So there's a little bit less distance that the rest of the enemies have to close to counterplay that, or the hero has to run to get back to their team to safety. So it's important. I think it's a pretty good change for what they've done. They've also increased his health by 4.5% as well. I'm guessing this is because he's got to get into the fray a little bit more. And you see what I did there? I'm just throwing the puns all over the place today.
You are, man. You're firing on all cylinders.
And 4.5% is actually significant too, because for Garrosh, because of his armor mechanic, that's more than 4.5% like health output, because he gets more armor as it goes lower too.
You know what? But I feel like the health increase was good. The health increase needed to be there.
Yeah, especially since he's losing some of his utility, they need to balance it somewhere else, right? Because he can't pull, like, you're obviously Groundbreaker is not nearly as good as it was before. It still has utility, it's still pretty good, but you need to balance it somewhere. They've obviously play tested it, and this is the balance they came up with to maintain his win rate, and we'll see how that shakes out in the coming week. So, LiQuiud, you're the tank player. What do you think about this?
Okay. Let's see. How do I put this? I understand that Garrosh was punishing people in non-competitive play where there wasn't a high degree of coordination, or he could. But on the flip side of that, he was also not punishing people when there also wasn't a high degree of coordination. Because I could flip you, I could pull you and flip you, but that doesn't mean the rest of my team is going to kill you. That just means I've pulled you and flipped you. I feel like this is a situation. My personal opinion is too many people complained, and this was the answer. Whether it was complaints or we see him banned every game or whatever the case may be, this doesn't feel like a, hey, you know what we decided? We decided it would really make sense to rework Garrosh. It feels like, hey, you know what? Garrosh never gets playtime. Let's see a way to do that. Maybe that's, you know, this change, maybe it's something else. I don't know. But I feel like there's a lot of other players that don't see a lot of competitive play or even Hero League play that don't get reworked. And here we are, you know?
It feels like it's more the reason they did this isn't because he's not seeing much play, but it's because of his ban priority. The fact that you're essentially down to one ban because someone's got to ban Garrosh. If the first pick team doesn't do it, the second team is likely going to do it, 90% of the time or whatever the statistic is. Mystic, do you think this was a good change? Do you think this was warranted? Like, do you think that, he's got a 50% win rate. Do you think this is going to maintain it around there with the buff to his health to accompany it?
I do think this was warranted, not to affect his win, not for the affecting of his win rate, but just for affecting playing against Garrosh, because it feels really bad that it's just like, okay, against this one hero, just don't get flipped. If you get flipped, you almost like die all the time. So with this change, it allows a little bit more counterplay, because originally Groundbreaker, it was pull, flip, and then you're dead, right? Now it's Groundbreaker, you're stunned, and then he has to run to you and then flip. So there's a little bit more time before you're flipped that your support can cleanse, that people can CC Garrosh, that people can push away Garrosh, or, you know, any of that stuff. So I think that's what people were complaining about, not his win rate, just he was really unfun to play against. So this adds a little bit more counter to play, and now you're like, oh shoot, I've been stunned, but my allies have pushed away Garrosh, and so I don't get flipped. And it makes the people who pushed away the enemy Garrosh feel a lot better that, hey, we just saved our ally from getting flipped.
Do you remember the days when we used to complain about Stitch's hooks? When Stitch's was too OP? It's funny how things can change, and no one complains about that anymore because we've got Garrosh to complain about. So Garrosh has lost like a very solid engage, arguably one of the better ones in the game as a tank, right? So is he lost his place now? Now that he's got to like trundle up to whoever he stuns with the team? Like it almost seems like it's kind of like a Muradin stun, but without the jump, right? He doesn't have that mobility, but he's got to walk up, throw out his stun, and then come and try and throw the character. Like, have we lost a lot of what made Garrosh great?
I think he's still, like, his throw is still strong, and they reduced the cooldown on it, they reduced the mana cost on it, so it's like, it's still devastating to get thrown. He just has to work a little bit more to throw you, and there's a little bit more that you can do about it.
Right.
Well, I'm hoping he's not banned nearly as much as he has been in the past. We've also had some other changes as well, mostly minor ones, so we'll go through those. Hanzo has had a buff to Dragon Strike, the ultimate that I think across the board everyone pretty much decided is absolutely garbage. 10% increase in damage to Dragon Strike. Is this enough, Mystic? You've been a notable proponent of someone who's been saying that, you know, Dragon Strike just is far inferior to Dragon's Arrow.
I think this makes Dragon Strike, the damage on Dragon Strike is now pretty decent, actually. But Dragon's Arrow, I still think, is the far superior ultimate. Unless, you know, you have the combo ready to go. Just right there.
I've been loving playing Hanzo, and I remember when he came out at BlizzCon thinking like Dragon's Arrow didn't seem very strong, but after playing him a lot more and talking to everyone and chatting it out, it's amazing how much utility that has. And I mean, I had a game, I think it was last night, where we knew they're on the boss. I was just respawning and our whole team was going to contest the boss, and I just threw that arrow right towards the collect point, and I ended up getting a massive, like, you know, playmaking stun there too. I think we still lost the boss, but either way it was still fun, and the utility of having that global there, especially after 20 where you could teleport into wherever it is, just feels so strong, and it's hard to take that clunky Dragon Strike in its stead. So Nova has come out after these stealth changes, and she's no longer that, man, I don't want her in my hero league. She's one of the more hotly contested heroes after her rework. So Blizzard's come out and been like, you know what, we gotta put her back in her place and make her so everyone hates seeing her on their hero league team. So they've reduced her health and health regen by about 4%. They reduced her damage on snipe by about 4%, and lethal decoy at level 16 does 40% bonus damage instead of 50% bonus damage. So just health and damage nerfs to Nova. Are you guys happy about this? Because I am. Scrump smile ear to ear. Nerf stealth into the ground. I'm happy with that.
No. All right. So you know what? I'm torn because I'm glad it was Nova and not Valeera. I don't know what else to say.
I think Valeera is close behind here.
Do not jinx me.
I don't think her win rate was significantly high, but a lot of people have been talking about that duration of the silence, whatever it is. Isn't it like 3.75 seconds?
Wait, whoa. That's
back it down, buddy. Back it down, buddy. Come on now.
That's next patch. Come on.
Come on. Let's keep it real. It's 2.75.
certainly feels like 3.75.
You know what? I mean, maybe you need to get a stopwatch or something because it's 2.75 and it's perfectly fine the way it is.
When I get in the zone, time just slows down for me, right? And I can see the matrix.
Silence feels extra long.
Especially when you're silenced.
Yeah, well, I got silenced as Muradin by her a few times. Be like, you can't jump out. And suddenly, like, you know, the impenetrable, undying Muradin suddenly gets burned down in those 3 seconds, give or take, and ends up dying. Yeah. So it feels pretty oppressive. So I was actually surprised they didn't take that down a little bit. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the future because of, you know, how strong that one ability is. I mean, that being said, if her win rate settles around 50%, maybe they won't touch it. Your girl
doesn't matter. It does not matter where her win rate is. She's fine the way she is, Blizzard. Leave her alone.
And if you like Valeera just as much as LiQuid does, you can be confident that you can play her throughout the holidays nerf-free.
You know what? I know what I'm doing now. All right, buddy. All right.
You know, as far as we're on the topic of Valeera here, I'm going to just go out and say I kind of don't like where she is right now. I'd rather her take some of that stuff and put it into more micro stuns and micro silences, where instead of just you're just silenced for 2.75 seconds. That's a long time. If she has like 3 abilities that stun you for like 0.5 seconds or something, and then you have to chain it all right, I could give it to you, you know, like if you took all those talents and then you took all those abilities and stunned chaining them all, that's fine with me. But if you just walk up and silence for 2.75 seconds, I feel like that is kind of oppressive.
100%. I'm actually.
Well,
okay.
Are you bending? Are you caving? LiQuid?
No. Listen. I'm agreeing with Mystic because I actually agree with this to a degree. She should be a higher skill cap, and one way to do that is you have to do the stun chain, right? Whether it's a stun chain or a silence chain, a chain of events that you have to execute properly to keep the target locked down for that long. I can agree with that. Absolutely. When you play a rogue in arena and you want to lock somebody down like that, it's part of your attack chain that you're doing refreshes the stun or is a new stun or is a silence or is it like it's all part of it. It's very flowy and that's how it should work. And the problem is in bringing it to HOTS, you don't have 12 buttons or 14 buttons, right? You have 5. So, which is a good thing. I'm definitely not complaining about that being the case, but because of that, it's much harder to do a chain of stuns or a chain of silences. You almost have to make it like Muradin's, I can't remember why I'm going blank on the talent, but the one where every time he hits you, it's like, or every other hit, it's like, Skullcracker. You almost have to make it like that, right? Where every time I stab you with my left hand, that's a silence. And then bring the silence down, but bring the stun up, and then make it so that you can chain them together. I would be okay with that type of change. Not the total CC time being 2.75 seconds, but needing to be multiple abilities to get that full 2.75 seconds. I'm perfectly happy with that change.
I like that. And I haven't played a lot of WoW, but I used to play some Hearthstone in my day, and the rogue was all about the combos.
Right.
So that would play to that as well, right? You're comboing your abilities to get more value out of them in the end.
I mean, that's literally what the rogue is all about combos. And it feels like they tried to embrace that in Heroes of the Storm, but the button limitation makes it difficult.
Just put them all on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right. It's like piano. Well, I mean, realistically, the way you could do it is you could do something like if I strike a hero with this attack, my first 3 buttons change. If I strike and then if I hit him with the next attack, my first 3 buttons change again, right? And like have it rotate through. But I can only imagine the amount of lag and the amount of like server-side processing that would require to make that play. And then it becomes like the most confusing character that Heroes has. Well, if I hit you with my 1 key, then these 3 keys change to this. But if I hit you with my 2 key first, these 3, you know what I mean? Like it would get like, or not 1 and 2, but Q and W. It would get really freaking confusing, right? And you'd have like only the best player, like it would be the ultimate micro character at that point. Because you have to have it all memorized and like, oh my God, I'm getting excited thinking about that. That's amazing.
I'm just saying, they put in Cho'Gall, and Cho'Gall was the first hero in like all of MOBAs that had a, two people kind of like pilot it, right? So they could change Valeera to that, and it'd be the first hero that actually like changes the skills mid combo for that. That'd be cool.
Oh my gosh.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, I could get behind that design because it's so much more roguelike. Oh my god, where do I sign up?
I have problems pulling off Zeratul combos, and he doesn't have extra buttons.
But that's the catch. It's not supposed to be easy. If you look at Garrosh's new stun, it's a short stun, so you can kind of forgive it, but it's really easy to hit, right? You just get him on the outside of the pizza slice, and bam, that's a 3/4 of a second stun. It's similar to Varian's stun when Varian had a charge. Point-and-click stuns are okay, but they can't be long. In Valeera's case, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, please forgive me, it's really easy to land a 2 3/4 second silence. It should not be that easy. It needs to be more work. My fear, though, is because like we just talked through a perfectly cool system that would be amazing with Valeera. Blizzard's not going to implement that, let's be honest. Like, that's never going to see the light of day. So my concern is that they're going to just nerf it because it's like, well, how do we make this better? Well, we can't, because given the game engine and the way the game is designed, you have 5 buttons. And if this doesn't fit into those 5 buttons, there's no way for me to make this, more complicated so that it's harder for people to, pull off, and you're just stuck.
So you heard it here first. LiQuiud wants Valeera to be nerfed.
No, that's not what I said. Do not misrepresent me, sir.
Okay, next on the docket, Thrall. Thrall is a character that I used to play all the time, and I loved him, and I never see him. I never play him. He's just fallen off the map for, I think, a lot of people, not like myself included, especially when we had some, hope and resurgence of maybe he'll come back after his rework, whatever it was, like 6-7 months ago. But that hasn't happened. So Blizzard's come back and said, you know what, let's give him some buffs. And usually when you start seeing these little nudges up, it's usually a precursor to something major. So I'm wondering if the Thrall, we're going to see Thrall in the balance patch notes to come as well, maybe some talent shuffles. So Thrall got a basic attack damage increase of 5%, which seems to be pretty standard for the buff numbers they use. And interestingly, too, level 13 Spirit Shield, that's just his 50% spell shield that you get periodically, that had a 45-second cooldown. It's now reduced by 10 seconds, up from 8 whenever Frost Wolf Resilience procs. Give him a little extra spell armor there. Small little tweak, small up to a lesser pick talent. Mystic, have you played Thrall more than me over the past year, like 7 months or so?
A year.
I was gonna say year.
It hasn't been that bad, man.
I don't know if it's that bad. But what do you think about Thrall? The place he's in generally, and I mean how this might affect it, and what do you think they should be doing in the days to come?
I personally think Thrall is still solid, and I think he's a very underrated hero right now. Like, he's still good. It's just he's not as good as like some of the higher picks that people get, right? Yep. So buffing this, I'm just like, well, it could push him up to, how good the other heroes are, but I still think he's solid. I didn't think he needed a buff, but, Blizzard is working with more numbers than I am, so maybe they know something, and they're just like, well, we'll just bump him up a little bit, but I think he's still solid.
Ogre in chat mentioned something, and I'm not sure this was an intention, but this kind of brought to mind. He always seems like he's on a quest. And I understand having like one quest, maybe 2, to have to worry about over the course of the game, but he's got, I feel like, a quest at almost every talent tier in a lot of ways, and that can get quite cumbersome, and it feels like you're fighting the game to play optimally, and you're not playing the game as it should be played.
So, first, I agree with you, but that brings up an interesting point that isn't in here, and I feel like that was a great segue to talk about. And that is performance-based matchmaking, which is currently turned off right now. But Justin made a great point last night when he said, Blizzard, turn it off. It will never work for tanks. And he's right, because if you think about what a tank does at low levels, it's probably okay there. Because at the lower play levels, your goal is to soak the damage, stun the target, and, just kind of be in the way and be annoying, right? But at the later levels, in the higher ranks, it's not so much that. Like, Shiz used to yell at me back when we used to play together. LiQuiud, I don't need you on the shrine, or I don't need you on this merc camp. I need you in the vent, and you're the mobile ward, and you're there to slow them down or warn us so we can all get the hell out of Dodge if we need to. if you're doing that activity, performance-based matchmaking is like, you didn't do anything all game. Sucks to be you. No points, right? Or your negative points. I don't know the best way to address that.
I'm going to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt here. And the reason being is because this is going to be good. It is good.
Yeah.
A couple BlizzCons ago, maybe it was 2 or 3, they announced how they were going to, I think it was Google was partnering with the StarCraft AI engine or whatever to use neural network learning to improve the AI. We've seen potentially some glimpses of this in Heroes with how they've improved the AI for Heroes, but again, just all the wording they use when they talk about performance-based matchmaking, how people have asked on Q&As before that we've seen, like there was the one with Kaldor, for instance, too, like how are you going to like be affected by people trying to game the system? And generally the response is that we have all these metrics that we look at, and it's not just that like you've got to get high siege damage or you got to like soak a lot of damage or take a lot of merc camps. The performance indicators and how they balance them all to figure out if you're playing well is based on everyone else at your level that's playing that same character. So to me, that screams that they've got some sort of like smart system that learns as it goes, and it's amazing what neural networks can do. I'm not sure if that's the case here. I don't want to like put words in their mouth, but it does hint that that's potentially what they're looking at, and I have faith in the tech. Of course, their seeding tech isn't the greatest apparently, but I
agree with the idea behind it, okay? Like, I totally agree with the idea behind it, and I support the idea behind it. The problem is, I don't think the AI engine has learned enough to be able to make that decision for tanks, and specifically for tanks because you have the low-level tanks who are doing something very different than the higher-level tanks, right? And so if you look at, let's say, all of your bronze and silver tanks, they're more soak the damage, CC the target, be upfront and annoying. If you start getting into platinum, diamond, master, and grandmaster, especially in the diamond and up leagues, it's the mobile ward, it's the I'm not always engaging, it's the I'm saving my mosh pit so I'm threatening it. I'm not necessarily using my mosh pit to get a 2-second 5-man stun because maybe that wasn't the right time to use that, right? So I'm just saying, like, the system as it is now is flawed, and they need to learn more. Prismat did a huge study on that stuff and said, look, if you win a game post 20 minutes, you get, like, he laid it out in a freaking spreadsheet that said, if you play this way, you will get plus 150 or 200, whatever the max points was. But if you play it this way, you will get negative points. Like, the gaming of the system exists, and that's not Blizzard's fault. It just needs more learning. And that's my concern. Especially, I think tanks are harder to learn than anything else in the game, right? Support is, did you heal? Did you keep them alive? Yes, okay. I'm not like trying to belittle support. Support is critical. Assassin, did you do damage? Did you stay alive? Cool, right? Like, it's stealthies have another. Valeris can run around in stealth the whole time and like just full on. Look at me, I got my plus 150. Good job. I never even came out of stealth. Plus 150. Good job. You know, like, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. And the other big takeaway here, so it's not everyone looking at fire and brimstone, is that you still have to win the games to get points, right? It's just that it's an adjustment from your in-game play. And at the end of the day, if you're playing suboptimally to try and game the system, that's probably going to hurt you in the long run because you might be more likely to lose that game now all of a sudden, as opposed to like where you could have had a win. But either way, we'll move along. I'm sure we could talk about this forever, and people have been talking about it forever for a while. So I feel like it's just probably a good time to move along. So Nazeebo got a 5.5% damage increase to Corpse Spiders and Ravenous Spirit. Gargantuan's health has been reduced by 5%, and Vile Infection at level 20 has damage bonus reduced from 200 to 150%. Mystic, is this the case of, I've got Nazeebo on my team, let's wait till 20, we'll just win it? Because I've seen that in chat pretty much any time you see a Nazeebo, and that's pretty much the given. Is that the case anymore with this Vile Infection change? That seems to be one of the bigger takeaways from this for me.
His Vile Infection hurt a lot, and with the double support, I'd say Nazeebo was. It wasn't the case when double support was around, because at level 20, when you get to it and double support meta was in, it was okay. Nazeebo can still do a lot of damage, but double support is in play, so he's like, a lot of it is mitigated, but it's still transferred to the structures and stuff. So it's still, he's still pushed really hard. Now, since the supports were nerfed and Nazeebo, they're buffing some of the other stuff, and Viral Infection is still gonna hurt, but it's not gonna hurt as much. So I think this rollback on the Viral Infection damage is because the double support meta is not like in effect anymore. So they're just like, wow, since supports heal a lot less, he's still gonna do a lot of damage unless we roll this back. So
yeah, unrecoverable damage too. Alexstrasza got some adjustments to her ultimates. Lifebinder's cooldown has been reduced from 75 to 60 seconds, and mana cost has been reduced from 100 to 80. And then Cleansing Flame's cooldown has been increased from 90 to 100 seconds, and its damage has been reduced by 10%, fairly significant. And to top off the Dragon build, which once you get to level 20 with her E build was way overpowered. Level 16 Draconic Discipline, that's where they decided to nerf this. Dragon Queen's bonus duration, if you take this talent, has been reduced from 9 to 7 bonus seconds. Alexstrasza seems to be one of those healers that came out of this healing nerf in almost like a positive light. Is this just a case of trying to pull her back down to where everyone else is?
I think Lifebinder, it was just an ultimate that no one really picked, except, a few fringe cases, I guess. But this will get it more picked, I believe. It's 60 seconds, so it's up almost all the time. And it's actually not a bad ultimate, to be fair. It's just that Cleansing Flame here is actually really good because it does everything. It makes you untargetable, it heals, it damages, it does everything. So increasing it to 100 seconds, I think that's good. And then decreasing the damage, I don't know. I didn't think it was doing that much damage, but I guess it added up if you just stuck on one target, because 150 is not a lot, but it adds up if you shoot 4 times.
But never mind.
Don't
stand there. Don't stand there. Move.
Well, she can move too, though.
Yeah, she can move too.
I mean, but
faster than anyone can move.
You, unless you're Genji or something, and you jump, she's gonna hit you.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I don't know, man.
Like, the area is so big, it's like,
it's huge.
How are you gonna dodge
it? Is huge. It is huge.
And Brightwing had changed to polymorph. Like I say, this was a little unexpected. The cooldown has been reduced from 12 to 10 seconds, and mana cost has also been reduced from 60 to 50. So those Brightwings are going to be polymorphing more often.
Annoying.
Annoying if you're the tank like LiQuiuD, but I guess you shouldn't be polymorphing the tank as Brightwing. So Lily had a bit of a buff to her Serpent build. Is it back, Mystic?
It could be. I mean, it's...
Yeah,
I think she needed a buff. Lily was kind of in that spot where she got buffed, but she still wasn't that great. So Blizzard's like, well, let's buff her some more and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And another notable change to her too, other than some almost across the board buffs to her Serpent build healing, and just the duration and uptime of those, is that her cleanse at level 7, which had a really small range, has been increased from 4 to 6. That's a significant jump in range, which makes that cleanse a little bit more useful, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. That cleanse range was really, really short.
Yeah, and it's not only that you got to get close into the danger zone, but you just, with the timing of those cleanses, you've got to be on point, and making sure you're within a 4 range of someone is awfully close. We're talking, far within an auto attack range of most heroes that are ranged. So Lucio, it seems like they're just adjusting a lot of the supports just to make sure that coming out of this support nerf, they're rebalancing everything. Lucio has amped up healing per second reduced by 5%. That's significant amount of healing loss. I mean, Lucio has been seeing a bit of an uptick in the meta. Maybe this will shove him back down again. Stukov has had one of his talents, One Good Spread mana restoration, reduced from 40 to 30. So a little bit less mana back from Stukov. Not that you really usually have too many mana issues with Stukov to begin with, unless you're doing the W build, I guess. Maybe that's what they're looking at here. Artanis had some changes as well. LiQuiuD, do you play much Artanis?
Occasionally. Not enough to, I don't know. When I'm feeling cheeky, maybe.
Well,
I prefer, like, when I'm going to do that, I prefer to play Sonya.
Well, I know Mystic likes his StarCraft characters, so maybe we'll get him to comment on the Artanis changes here. Level 7 Chrono Surge. Attack speed has been increased from 50 to 75% after hitting a hero with Phase Prism. That's fairly significant for someone who relies on his auto attacks to buff his trait. In level 13, Templar's Zeal Blade Dash now recharges 200% faster when below 50% health. That's up from 150%. And Phase Bulkward, this is where he gains spell armor for 4 seconds when the shield activates. The spell armor has been increased from 40 to 50. Artanis getting some buffs. What do you think about that, Mystic?
I feel like Artanis needed something. These buffs, like, I don't know. So Chrono Surge, the 50% to 75% attack speed boost. Okay. It makes him do more damage. It makes him have more shields if he goes that talent. And then Templar Zeal, no one really took this talent because there was another talent. I can't remember the name. Oh yeah, I think it was Triple Strike.
Yep.
Yeah. So people usually took Triple Strike because they're like, okay, this does more damage and, it gives shield up faster and whatnot. So Templar Zeal, if you're 50% or below, it increases the cooldown reduction rate of your Q, which is the dash. And now increasing that to 200%, that's quite a lot. So I could totally see this being viable, just like dashing everywhere, and then so you can get their backline a lot easier as long as you're at 50% or below. So I think that makes that talent viable. Up against the Triple Strike, I don't know, maybe. I still think Triple Strike is pretty insane, though. And then Phase Bulwark, it's always good to have a little bit more spell armor, especially when it's only active when your shield is up, and then your shield gets one shot anyway, so...
Diva had her basic attack damage in mech form increased from 21 to 24. Those little pea shooters are going to be doing a bit more damage now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but her explosion for her mech, like her charge up time, is based on time, right? Not damage?
The charge up on the explosion?
Yeah, on like being able to do the self-destruct. That's based on time, right? Not damage, like time shooting. Like it's the amount of seconds that you're auto-attacking, damage taken, right? It has nothing to do with damage dealt.
So her mech gains charge when you're auto-attacking for a certain amount of time. It's not damage. And then it's also damage taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just saw this, and like I said, we haven't had a lot of time to analyze these notes. I just wanted to make sure this didn't have implications on charge up time for her mech as well. So confirm then that it is damage taken and received and amount of time shooting.
Yeah.
Okay, we already went over the Garrosh changes, so we're skipping over those, and we'll go into our next segment, our favorite heroes. So myself, LiQuiuD, and Mystic have all picked our favorite heroes. We're going to have a short discussion on each one, just some strategy that we've developed over our many games playing these heroes and trying to impart those to everyone. So we'll start with myself. My favorite hero and my guilty pleasure is Medivh. I love playing Medivh, and I gotta say, it was rough getting started out as a Medivh player, but over time, I feel like because I put in the hours, I've become a lot stronger in him than other heroes, and it has definitely shown in terms of my win rate as Medivh himself. So a lot of people are intimidated to play Medivh. A lot of people think he doesn't do a lot of damage. How do you fit him into a team comp? If you're taking him, you're losing out on other things. Maybe he's only for coordinator or pro play. And I like to refute all of that. And I think that Medivh just takes that extra practice to get used to. And once you do, you can have a ton of utility for the team. He can be good damage. He's amazing for damage mitigation with his protect. He makes great plays with his ultimates as well as his portals. He's got great team mobility with his portals, and he can provide amazing scouting and soak in his owl form. I'm going to touch on these one at a time, starting with his laning, actually. I guess it wasn't part of that preamble there. But one thing I found learning to micro as Medivh is that he's actually surprisingly good in lane by himself even, or against an opponent who's either aggressive or passive, and you can adjust your playstyle to deal with that. The one micro thing that I've learned is to clear the wave. You can clear a wave in 7 seconds off the hop. If there's no heroes in that contesting that lane, you throw out your Q, you auto attack the back line or just the frontline targets that aren't getting burnt down, spread the damage around, then your next Q will actually wipe out more or less the wave. So 7-second clear time for a wave isn't bad, and that actually increases if you can catch your opponent running around as you're trying to clear the wave too, because it lowers the cooldown of your Q, and that's kind of the key thing to try and do when you're in lane with somebody. So against an aggressive opponent, and it doesn't necessarily mean like an aggressive hero, just an opponent that's really pushing hard and trying to get damage on you, it's one of the great things about Medivh is he can stay in owl form. He can pick up globes in owl form. You can pick up those globes before they're contested. You don't even have to worry about getting in Sonya's face or whoever it is to pick up those globes and denying them the globe as well. So against aggressive opponents, you can just sit back. You don't drain tower ammo anymore. You let the wave come to you. You can actually take their globe away from them too, because they're likely not going to be aggressive enough to come into tower range to take that globe. And you can actually do a lot of good, decent amount of like soaking and pressure in lane just by staying passive. That being said, against a passive opponent, you can play the lane bully as Medivh as well. Timing your protects well, depending on who your opponent is, making sure you're timing your arcane, your Qs again, so they hit the opponents. They'll start to respect that and back off a little bit. You can actually bully a hero pretty easily, especially, I mean, I guess it's a little bit later game once you get the heal on your Q as well, on your W as well. So these things are important to note, and just make sure that when you're in lane, there's a lot of micro that you can optimize with Medivh to get the most out of him. So I said he's got good damage, and a lot of people say, okay, Medivh doesn't have enough damage. That being said, if you can get Master's Touch, especially early in the game, which isn't that difficult to do once you start getting good at Medivh because he's got so much utility and escapes and he's hard to actually catch out, you can get that done pretty early within 5 or 10 minutes of gameplay and get that extra damage, that reduced cooldown. You can start just being machine gun Medivh, getting those out there, getting a ton of damage, especially against a tank heavy comp too, because you can be throwing those in the tanks, doing a lot of chunk damage. He also does a lot of amazing damage mitigation too, and I mean, everyone knows this, but the best he is at for damage mitigation is against burst comps or like high damage abilities. He's got so much utility against like a Pyroblast or anything like that, but not only that, but just even basic abilities like a Kael'thas, Flame Strike, or a Leeming Orb or Chromie Sandblast. One thing that I always do as Medivh is make sure I keep an eye on those characters that I know are going to be doing that burst damage. Keep an eye on mental note their cooldowns, see when they cast it, save my W for that, put it on the hero who is the most likely target, and you'll find yourself doing almost healer level of damage mitigation. Mobility too, he's got amazing mobility with his portals. A lot of people don't take the portals, which is unfortunate because a lot of people don't play with Medivh very often, but you can save people in those key moments. Always save your portal for those key moments. Don't throw out on a very long cooldown willy-nilly. You'll also find yourself running into mana issues if you're throwing out your portals too often. Scouting too. Here's one of my most important tips, and the trolls out there will love this one. I think we saw it at BlizzCon. I think it was someone on Fnatic was doing this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in owl form, putting the sprays.
Yeah, that was Fnatic.
Bugging the hell out of the other team.
That was Fnatic KSV, I think, or it was Fnatic, a Korean team. I don't remember which Korean team it was.
It seems like such a douchebag thing to do, but it actually works. Like rattling the other team, you can noticeably like get them to play suboptimally because they're just getting really annoyed at the fact. One thing I like to do is change my spray to a cheese spray just to really piss them off too. just keep tossing the cheese. You get them spraying too, like you get a little bit of spray war. They'll start ignoring things, and you can kind of keep an eye on the minimaps. You're in owl form, so you're invulnerable. They're not. So you can even get people to start focusing on you and set up ganks with just cheese spraying people. So that's a little pro tip from Daz that I've liked to use. It's a bit of a dick thing to do, but hey, anything that gives you an edge, right? Late game too, you definitely should be scouting the other team. Make sure you're staying out, figuring out where they are, because that information is so important. Are they on a boss? Are they doing merc camps? If your team knows where they are, they can play the map a lot safer. And finally, last thing I'm going to talk about in this long-winded Medivh thing, maybe I'll write up a build guide for him, is his ultimates. Leyline, in my mind, is superior in almost every case. However, Leyline can really screw up things in uncoordinated play. You can throw out that Leyline the same time Leoric's marching, or as Diablo's doing his APOC, you're gonna mess up ultimates. So you want to make sure that you know what ultimates are out there other than yours, even basic abilities, because you mess those up too. If like someone's trying to do a combo and you leyline them all, Malthael's abilities like or Kerrigan's ultimate as well. Like you got to be really careful and cognizant if you're going leyline. If you're new to Medivh, Polybomb's great too. Toss them those tight quarters. If someone's got a mosh pit or the Garrosh AoE stun, it's great for those. You'll have sheep going everywhere, and it does give it some of the same setup for other wombo combos. But leyline is great because it does have the ability to get everyone out of a trouble situation, steal a boss, great setup, great isolation, wombo combo potential. It can do almost everything, which is why I think leyline is the best in most situations. Okay, LiQuiD.
I mean, I just have a couple of comments. There are definitely some great wombos you can do with Polybomb. We saw him at BlizzCon, Tempo Storm, and the Polybomb when they like everybody was on top of each other, and it was just like sheep running everywhere. So, yeah, there's like some stuff you can do.
Yeah, and Polybomb works really great too with certain abilities too, like even Joanna, like pulling everyone in, and if she uses her shield on her ultimate, being able, like if you have those longer stuns that are group stuns too, having the Polybomb in that situation, it makes it so impossible for people to get away from those sheep that it does have that extra effect. But if you have Polybomb and you only get value on like one polymorph, then suddenly it loses a lot of its value. So you gotta make sure you hold it for those key kind of crucial moments. LiQuiD, who is your favorite hero and how do you play them optimally?
So, all right. Can we do Mystic real quick? I'm sorry. I need half a second. I apologize.
Mystic, we'll jump to you because LiQuiD's having a brain fart. Mystic, who is your favorite hero and how do you play them optimally?
All right. Well, I couldn't get into as much detail as you did with your Medivh hero, so I got 3, although to a lesser extent here. So these are like my top 3 heroes that I really like in Heroes of the Storm. So first of all, we got Tyrael. Tyrael, I really like his design. You know, he's the Archangel of Justice, and that really appealed to me when I first started playing the game. And so Tyrael's a hero where you can do almost anything. You have mobility, you have shields, you got speed ups, you can tank, you can pick CC, you have some damage, and you have the ultimate form appeal, which is invincibility. So now, with all his power comes a little bit of nerfing here. So even though he can do everything, he doesn't do like it extremely well. So that's the bit here. You know, that's the rub. So you can pick him in almost any situation, in my opinion, except for if you need like really, really hard CC. So with his Q ability, you probably shouldn't use it to clear waves. He has mana management issues where, you know, you can't just like spam every ability you have and then expect to have a lot of mana for fights. So you got to be kind of, you know, on the ball for that. His W, shield, thing that, you know, shields everybody. It shields your minions as well, so it can help you push. Use that for peeling, and, you know, if you're fighting, there's some pretty good talents for it that regenerate your HP and do damage once it's broken. What's his E ability called again? Was it Purge? I can't believe I don't remember this.
Chat room, we need some help.
Yeah.
Tyrael's E ability here. I'm trying to pull it up as I speak. Smite.
Smite, okay. Purge is the level 1 talent for it, I believe. Yeah, Smite. So Smite is really good because it helps you clear waves, it speeds up your teammates, and it does pretty good damage. Like, for an ability on that sort of cooldown, it's not that bad damage, especially when you are kind of lowish on mana. And his ultimates, we got Sanctification, best peel in the game, and best like anti-anything in the game. Yeah, you pop it down when things are going bad, and it turns team fights because your team is invincible as long as they stand into it. His other ultimate, Judgment, is really good for catching. It doesn't have that bad of range, and it has insane range when you take the level 20, so it's really good for diving somebody or even peeling, you know, just use it on their tank and, you know, push everybody back and stun them. Yep. Second hero, we got Raynor. He's
Wait, can we take a minute and just acknowledge that Tyrael is the best, or one of the best warriors in the game, especially if you don't need the CC or if you're playing with another warrior that has the CC. I feel like he's so underrated in like Hero League sometimes, but oh my god, he's so awesome.
Really?
Yes.
Like, I mean, I one of the reasons I say really is because you don't see him that much. I don't play
That's my
a lot of
point.
Tyrael.
That's my point, man. You don't see him that much. He's so awesome. And people are like, I don't know, like no CC, I don't know, but like, damn, Tyrael can change a game for you.
I think it's because he does a lot, but he does a lot for his team. Like he does,
right?
But he can't like solo carry a game. But he can if his team's on board.
Right.
Well, and if you pick Tyrael, you typically need you need to carry up for its deficiencies in other picks as well. You need a secondary tank that can do things with like the CC, or like, I mean, Tyrael seems to be, like Mystic said before, missing. He's like a jack of all trades but master of none. So you've got to make up for those deficiencies in other places. So you have to do that through smart drafting or hero picks. So does Tyrael rely on someone else, or can you even solo tank as Tyrael? Is that what you're saying you can do here? Or is he just a good support tank?
I've seen solo tank Tyrael. It can happen.
Because he feels like a support
perfect.
tank, not like a tank.
So I would counter that and say Zarya is a support tank. I absolutely believe Zarya is a support tank. Oh my god, that's freaking me out because you got green on that cup, dude. The flames are coming.
The magic of green screens.
No, so I absolutely agree with you that Zarya is a support tank. I do not believe Tyrael. I guess it is to a certain extent, right? The shields and the other stuff. Yeah, sure. You can say he's a support tank, but I feel like he's just underrated as a tank. He's a solid tank, even without the CC.
All right, I'll go on to my next two here. So Raynor, I really like Raynor, even though people like he needs a rework. I think he's a really, really fun basic hero. He really rewards people for, people that love to auto attack and people that have good positioning. And I love him for that fact because if you want to learn the game, like as a ranged hero, Raynor's perfect because he doesn't have an escape. So he requires you to have good positioning, and he focuses on auto attacks with one form, I guess maybe two forms of self-peel where he can speed himself up or push someone back. And honestly, if you just build him straight auto attack, he does pretty good damage. So, his Q ability is that knockback. His W ability is the speed up. He has that stim pack, or I think it's just stim pack, where he heals if he gets too low. I mean, that doesn't really help if you get one shot, but,
if you're learning the stutter step, Raynor's the one to do it with.
Oh, Raynor is definitely the one to do it with.
Yeah, and his ultimates are actually pretty good. One of them is... it's a huge field AoE that hits everything in front of it, in the circle, and it does damage to buildings. As the other one is just a single target, like summon that you can just target onto different people that do quite a bit of damage, actually. The Banshee's hurt.
Yes.
And now, lastly, we have Genji. I know everybody hates Genji because, they don't like fighting him, but he's actually one of my favorite heroes just for the fact that he can do a lot of stuff. He can be mobile, or he's very mobile. He can poke. He's like a ranged... He's a ranged assassin, so doesn't do as much auto attack damage as Jimmy here, but he's still pretty good in that aspect, and he's a finisher. So if your team can output a little bit of damage and maybe get them to at least half or something, he can almost carry at that point, especially with Dragon Blade. So, his Q ability, Shuriken, if you get Shingon, you want to use it really close. It works on forts and, other structures as well, so you can use it for pushing. His W ability, Protect, it's a very, very strong ability, especially on Braxis, because you can use it to solo the boss, or almost solo the boss. His E ability, Swift Strike. It feels a little... it's like the longest dash in the game, but it feels a little bit shorter because of the camera increase range. That's a little bit interesting to me. But yeah, it's the longest dash in the game. You can use for escapes, engage, what have you. It's very versatile. And then we have X Strike and Dragon Blade. Dragon Blade, skill you want to carry the game with. X Strike, if they are focusing you really, really hard and they have a lot of CC, X Strike is the one that you're going to want because you're not going to be able to Dragon Blade at all.
So Mystic, Let's get your Genji hat on here for a second, since you're not wearing a Santa
I got the
hat.
jacket on right now.
Oh,
There you go.
that's a great sweater. I got one of them too. But since you're not wearing a Santa hat, I want you to put your Genji hat on for a second. So you're sitting there, you're about to pull out your Dragon Blade. What is it that you cry out? Can I hear a Genji cry from you?
Okay, let's see if I can do it. Ryujin no Ken wo kure!
So much better than when I do it. Do either of you guys know what that translates to?
No.
Eugene is dragon, no Ken, which is a sword. Wokure means eat this, so taste the Dragon Blade.
Oh, I was gonna hope eat my Dragon Blade.
I mean, you can say that too, right?
my loose interpretation of the translation. Okay, LiQuiD.
All right, I'm sorry about that. It wasn't that I wasn't ready. It was I had to deal with a tournament issue for my team.
Only you would apologize. We've got other things we could talk about.
I know,
it doesn't
man. I'm sorry.
affect anything to circle back to you.
I feel like I need to apologize. Teams doing a tournament, I had to make sure they got in because, if you're not in, you can't compete. So, Wednesday night, man. Wednesday nights. All right, so I picked two. I did not go nearly in depth as these two did, mainly because when I'm on the spot like that, sometimes I can't write on paper. I can chat, and so we'll see how this goes because I love to chat. But the two that I picked, and I'm going to tell you both of them, then we can go through it a little bit, which should surprise no one, is Valera and ETC. So Valera, we'll start with Valera. I've played two things my entire gaming life, and that is a rogue and a tank. And Valera was really, I felt like that was missing in HOTS before Valera was launched. I tried Zeratul, I tried Nova, even though Nova's ranged. It wasn't the same. It didn't feel right. Zeratul always felt clunky to me, which is not to say he is clunky, just that Zeratul and me don't get along very well. And then Valera was released, and oh my god, that was like a week worth of heaven because the best rogue in the everything I wanted a rogue in this game was there, and then they nerfed her into the ground, and I was so sad for so long, man. I lost track of how long that sucked for so long. Anyway, I love Valera because she's a rogue and she plays very roguelike, and that's something I look for in a game. I look for those two things. I look for roguelike or I look for tank, and Valera's my rogue, and yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. I rambled a lot. Sorry.
No problem. So the next segment that we're going to do is what we want for Christmas from Blizzard. Only appropriate since since Christmas is right around the corner. So we'll put it to LiQuiD first, unless he's got a tournament issue to deal with. Nope. LiQuiD, what would you like to see or get from Blizzard for Christmas?
All I want for Christmas is Reinhardt.
I gotta say, when we came up with this segment, I thought for sure you were gonna say a HOTS API. I was like, I'm glad.
I mean, if I could have two things, it would be a HOTS API and Reinhardt. But my thing, here's okay. Let me explain my thinking here because you're right. The API is absolutely top of my list, but the reason I pick Reinhardt first is because everybody is so convinced that it's gonna be Winston next, and I don't want Winston. I want Reinhardt. So I have to make Reinhardt at the top of my Christmas list just for that reason. However, all things equal, I think actually, you know what? Let me take a step back. I'm changing my answer. You know what I really want? What I really want is I want all of the things we don't have. And what I mean by that is I want the ability to watch my friend's game. I want the ability to have automated tournaments set up within the game. And I want the API. And all three of those things are really closely tied together. You know why they're really closely tied together? Because it's the engine that we're playing on that doesn't allow us to have those things. So I want a new engine that includes those things so that we can get off this old, I can't reconnect to the video game engine and get onto the new hotness, which will have API access, watch your friends' games, automated tournaments built into the system, and a reconnect system that doesn't suck.
You were the kid that wished for world peace, weren't you? Like that
No, man, I
unattainable
never
thing.
wished for world peace. I'm just saying, like,
We're talking about
that-
realistic things here,
well,
LiQuiud.
that's why I picked Reinhardt. Like, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? That's why I picked Reinhardt. Because realistically, honestly, the API is tied to those things. Like, all of those things are tied together. The engine is part of the struggle. They're not. It's not like they would have to really jack with the data in order to share data through the API that they wanted to share, but not let you see the other data that they don't want you to see, because they're very, oh, you can't see your MMR. That's not allowed, right? So like exposing an API for that becomes more difficult, where based on how I believe they're recording the data currently, which means, okay, now you need a new engine. If you're going to do a new engine, you might as well fix all the other things that people want out of a new engine. So Reinhardt is my choice for Christmas. But if the world is your oyster and you're wishing upon the one star in the sky and Santa's going to deliver, or Great Father Wintermist is going to deliver for you, it's the new engine.
Well, let's cross our fingers and hope. Mystic, how about you? What would you want from Blizzard for Christmas?
Well, aside from, world peace, I want some more StarCraft heroes, because I know we've been getting a huge flux of Overwatch heroes, and I kind of understand why, because Blizzard wants to fill out the, Overwatch roster, and Overwatch is really popular, so they're like, hey, it might attract more people to HOTS. I understand all that, but, more StarCraft heroes. I know a lot of people are like, StarCraft dead game, but, it's not dead to me. I want more StarCraft heroes.
I actually support that, too. I was disappointed we didn't get the Firebat.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's coming soon.
I know, I'm just saying, like, but I agree with Mystic. It would be cool to have more.
Now, is there one StarCraft character in particular you're hoping for, Mystic? Arcturus Menx, maybe?
Not a specific StarCraft hero, but I kind of want a StarCraft hero that's kind of like Abathur and plays around with the map, but not Abathur.
The Overmind?
Oh yeah. The Overmind, we could have something like that. He can power up, the minions in the lane and spawn tentacles or Zerg in different lanes. That would be really cool. And he attaches himself to the core.
Well, we kind of have that already, don't we? With
Abathur. I feel like I can talk about StarCraft a little bit more knowledgeably now, since I watched about 12 hours worth of cinematics of StarCraft 2
really?
StarCraft 1 and 2. Yeah, you can go onto YouTube. You can actually watch the story so far. I did the same with Diablo as well, because I never played Diablo 2 or 3, so I got the stories from those as well. And my Christmas wish might seem like a weird one, considering I never thought in a million years that I'd enjoy this, but maybe Mystic can relate. I'd like some more PvE content. I loved that Brawl escape from whatever it was called, Raxus or whatever. It was a lot of fun. It was amazing. I think it was really good for the community too, with the speed runs people were doing, posting on Reddit. I would like to either see that be a dedicated mode, or maybe have some sort of campaigns, or maybe make the tutorial a bit more PvE campaign oriented. I think that'd be great. A little throwback to the days when I played a lot of Warcraft or Warcraft 2 as well. But everybody, thanks for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast. We stream this live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/trollsgg, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. LiQuiud, where can people find you on the internet?
Really, man?
I got to make your job life really
trying
busy.
To do the giveaway, but really, let's keep going, man. Come on, LiQuiud, what you got? All right, you can find me at LiQuiudGG. That's LiQiuDGG. We had a great show last night with Troll and HGC. Had Justing on. It was awesome. Check out the VOD. I will probably not get that uploaded until tomorrow, just because it usually takes me a day or so to get around to actually cutting the video and getting it uploaded into all the places so you guys can consume it. But definitely check it out. It was so much fun. And we're working on some things to do next week. We are sorry, this just turned into a little Troll and HCC kind of promo.
That's what. But
we are actually, we're doing a little bit of the Tuesday and the Wednesday show for the next couple of weeks. So next week, we will also be on Tuesday, the day after Christmas, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Working on a guest. I'm not going to spoil it. I have a couple possibilities, and I'm just trying to see which one the scheduling is going to work out with. So definitely check that out next week. And then in the new year, we are definitely working with Gilly and Caldor on some NA and EU preview shows. So those will be amazing as well. So check out at Trollin HGC. That's TROLLIN HGC. Or just follow me at LiQuidGG, LiQiuDGG. I tweet when I'm doing all that stuff in as well. So
yeah, it's quickly becoming the podcast for esports in Heroes. So I'm so glad that you started that, and it's really taking off. So if you haven't checked it out before and you're a fan of Heroes Esports, even if you aren't, definitely head over and give that podcast a shot.
And like hang out and chat if nothing else. Like we had Yipboss, Renal, Huge. I mean, we had like
it's where the pros hang out, right?
It's really cool. It kind of is. Like I feel like I'm patting myself on the back a little too much. I'm not trying to. Like we have a lot of cool people come and hang out and chat and give their opinions. Players too. Man, I'm going blank on who was there last night. There was a lot of good chat. So definitely, if you can, watch it live, because like cool things get said there when it's live.
How about you, Mystic? Where can folks find you?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
And I am at DazHots on Twitter as well. I'd like to thank all our patron supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so over at patreon.com/trollsgg. You can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also visit our website at trolls.gg/TheNexusTrolls to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel. For announcements about the show and general Here's the Storm news, you can follow us on Twitter at TheNexusTrolls. If you want to hang out with us in the Trolls community in-game, you can /join TrollsGG in-game or join our Discord channel, trolls.gg/Discord. Finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at TheNexusTrolls@TrollsGG. And if you're in chat and you're interested in playing some after-show games, we're going to be doing those tonight. I'm not sure if LiQuiud and Mystic will be joining me, but I'll definitely be there. If you're interested in joining us for some after-show games, you can /join TrollsGG, one word, in-game chat, and we'll make sure to get you in some games. We'll be streaming those tonight as well. If you'd rather just watch them, you can do that too. So that being said, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week.